The Ukrainian Defense Forces are currently facing some of the most serious challenges since the beginning of the full-scale war. As the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrskyi, stated, Russian occupiers are increasing the intensity of their offensive actions, so the response must be as effective as possible. And today, the key role in restraining the Russian Federation's army belongs to unmanned systems. Meanwhile, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, there have been 62 clashes on the front line since the beginning of the day. More details about the situation at the front are coming up next.
Ukrainian troops are holding their positions in the western, eastern and partially southern areas of Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region, while Russian forces are trying to break through from the north and through the center. The invaders are constantly bringing in reinforcements from Russian territory, taking advantage of their proximity to the border.
Ukrainian troops are present in the western, eastern and partially southern districts of the city. The Russians are trying to push through from the north and the center and are also attempting to bypass the city itself, which is why the area is seeing intense fighting. Additionally, the situation is further complicated by the extensive destruction of the city as a whole. That is why, unfortunately, we are no longer talking about who will control the city, but rather about who will control what is left of it. Viktor Trehubov, head of the communications department of the Joint Forces Group, speaking live on the marathon broadcast.
Meanwhile, in the Lyman direction, pilots from the border unit Phoenix detected and destroyed 2 more North Korean Type 63 multiple rocket launch systems belonging to the Russian army. Thanks to the accuracy of the Phoenix fighters, this equipment is no longer present on the battlefield. At the same time, near Lyman itself, clashes were recorded near the settlements of Hrekivka, Miran and in the direction of Stavki. On the Kostiantynivka section of the front, Russian forces attempted to break through the Ukrainian defenses near Sherbinivka, Rusin Yar and Sofiyivka. On the hottest Pokrovsk direction, Ukrainian defenders repelled Russian attacks in the areas of Ryshin, Kotline, Udakne and Molodetske.
In the past few days, Ukrainian Defense Forces have managed to stabilize and secure the flanks. These are the very pincers of the operational encirclement that the enemy has been trying to form for a long time around Mirnograd and Pokrovsk. And this means that conducting any kind of artillery strike operations in the future can take place under relatively safe conditions. At present, both Pokrovsk and Mirnograd are operating toward Magnitogorsk, drawing about 140,000 Russian servicemen to this section of the front. And the Russian General Staff is forced to keep them there instead of redirecting them to other, no less intense sectors of the front, whether it be the east of the Zaporizhzhia region, or the battles currently ongoing in the Chasiv Yar area, or the new priority direction for the enemy, the fighting on the Lyman and Siversk fronts.
The Russian invaders are trying to advance into the northern part of Pokrovsk, taking advantage of the foggy weather. But despite this, Ukrainian forces report that they are successfully destroying the enemy. Search and assault operations and the elimination of Russian units in the urban area are also ongoing in the city. The East Military Group reported that over the past day the Russians lost 84 personnel in this direction, 48 of whom are irrecoverable losses.
At present, thick fog covers almost the entire theater of operations, which makes the combat work of drones, both reconnaissance and strike drones, extremely difficult. This in fact creates serious problems not only for our drone operators but also for the Russians, who are unable to effectively track all the movements of Ukrainian forces and equipment, let's say, in the Pokrovsk and Mirnograd areas as well as in other sectors of the front. And this means that logistics are functioning.
Ukrainian Special Operations Forces used drones to strike a Russian warehouse in temporarily occupied Donetsk. A large number of reconnaissance and strike drones belonging to the Russian army were stored there, as well as warheads for them. In addition, Special Operations Forces drones struck Semikino in the temporarily occupied Luhansk region. A fuel and lubricants depot belonging to the Russian South Group of forces was hit. As a result of the attack, storage tanks containing about 6,000 cubic meters of fuel were destroyed. And over the past day, Ukraine's defense forces eliminated 930 Russian occupiers. Thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the total losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale war have exceeded 1,182,000 soldiers. In addition, the day before, Ukrainian defenders destroyed 2 armored combat vehicles, 27 artillery pieces, a multiple rocket launcher system and 62 units of enemy automotive and special equipment.
A military transport aircraft, the AN-22 Antey, crashed near Moscow. According to Russian media, this happened in the Ivanovo region. The aircraft belonged to the Ministry of Defense of the aggressor country. All 7 crew members died. The plane crashed into a body of water. Investigative authorities are working at the crash site. 1.5 billion hryvnias in budgetary support have been received by Ukrainian defense industry manufacturers. The funds were allocated for recovery after Russian attacks and to resume operations. This was reported by Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal. According to him, the updated financing mechanism made it possible to quickly allocate funds to eliminate the consequences of the shelling.
We are working to ensure that the Ukrainian defense industry operates in safe conditions for development and that Ukrainian soldiers are provided with everything they need. At the same time, we are developing a comprehensive action plan to protect the domestic defense industry from future strikes. It provides for changing the geography of production, relocating the capacities of critically important enterprises, moving production out of areas where the Russian army uses glide bombs, and constructing underground production complexes. Denis Shmyhal, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Facebook.
The armed forces of Ukraine are increasingly relying on technology, from aerial reconnaissance to robotic systems. Logistics, evacuation of the wounded, demining, these missions are already being carried out by ground robots. Correspondents from Freedom visited the production site of advanced technology and found out how new platforms are created. Details in the report?
Here, we have such developments. Translation 1. Here we have such developments that already have a certain number of orders. One of these is the Snake Firefighter. It is used by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. This is also a new platform. It is also in the process of codification. This is the Snake Mini Logistics platform, which will also be used in combat. How is it more effective than the Great Snake? It's small and easy to transport.
Translation 2. Vasily, a former serviceman, continued to help his comrades even after leaving the armed forces. He founded the company in 2023 together with a small group of like-minded people after receiving a request from sappers for a simple, inexpensive yet effective tool to clear fields of Russian mines. The first prototype of the robotic platform was assembled from improvised materials.
Translation 3. Considering that I am a veteran, in 2022, after leaving the armed forces of Ukraine, in 2023 we started receiving requests from brothers in arms at the front that they needed a demining device. Since the fields were sown with mines, they needed a way to avoid damaging them. And all this had been done manually for years, and they wanted to somehow mechanize and speed up the process. Accordingly, the first creation was born. This is a remotely controlled demining device.
Translation 2. A fully functional ground robot capable of withstanding explosions from both anti-personnel and even anti-tank mines. All the parts were made as simple as possible so that soldiers could repair the machine right at their positions.
Translation 4. It is armored, can handle all types of mines, and can survive anti-tank mines. No one believed that small platforms could withstand such massive mines. It is quite lightweight in some of its replaceable parts, easy to repair, and it doesn't have any complex components, for example, logistical ones. The repair process is quite simple and straightforward. That means it can be repaired fairly quickly in the field.
Translation 2. Gradually, the product line expanded and logistical platforms appeared for delivering ammunition, evacuating the wounded, or transporting other robots. Such ground-based robotic systems can traverse difficult terrain, are not afraid of mines, and can withstand attacks from FPV drones.
Translation 4. This is a remotely operated platform with a manipulator arm, which can function as a loader, and the front limb can also be replaced with a bucket, allowing it to be used as a remotely controlled excavator. This is the Zmaydroid 12.7, where we have integrated a turret into it. It is equipped with a Browning 12.7 machine gun. The firing range and accuracy are 1 kilometer or more.
Translation 2. The company has already received NATO codification. This means that their equipment has been entered into the unified NATO database and meets the requirements for production standards and identification. Such status simplifies interaction with military structures and allows for the official supply of products to partners.
Translation 4. The only goal is to save the lives of servicemen. I can say that our systems are operating from the Sumy region to Zaporizhzhia along the entire front line. We have established support groups. We always respond quickly to any of their needs. That's why we have a lot of brigades using our systems.
Translation 2. Since the beginning of the year, ground robotic systems have already evacuated 147 wounded soldiers. In 2025, the state has contracted for between 10 and 15,000 GRS units. This is the largest army robotization program since the beginning of the war. Already about 30 new models have been officially approved for use, and more than 70 are currently undergoing testing. According to military forecasts, in 2026, the armed forces' need may increase to 30,000 ground robotic platforms. This will mark a new stage in automation and security technologies on the front line. Yulia Bell, Vadim Dmitriev from Lviv region for Freedom TV channel.
And now to other important news of the day. The expansion of the European Union is a key geopolitical tool that will help ensure peace and stability on the continent. And Ukraine's membership in the EU is the guarantee of security for all of Europe. This was stated by Lithuanian Foreign Minister Kęstutis Bundris. He also emphasized that the expansion of the European Union will be one of Vilnius's main priorities during its presidency of the EU Council in 2027.
Ukraine's membership in the EU is a necessary condition for European security. It is also one of the elements of security guarantees for Ukraine. The European Union must send clear and consistent signals regarding Ukraine's integration so that citizens see a real prospect of membership and reforms are carried out more quickly and effectively. Kęstutis Bundris, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, from a publication by LRT.
Lithuania will consider the possibility of freezing or confiscating Belarusian assets. This was stated by President Gitanas Nausėda. According to him, the decision will be made at the State Defense Council, which will take place in mid-December.
At the State Defense Council, we discussed integrated air defense. Now we are talking about other issues that will be addressed at the next State Defense Council. First of all, about what Belarusian assets exist and what possible options there are in this area. That is simply to freeze or confiscate Belarusian assets that are located in the Republic of Lithuania. Gitanas Nausėda, President of Lithuania, on Lithuanian National Radio and Television.
Meanwhile, a state of emergency has been declared in Lithuania. The reason is the flights of weather balloons carrying contraband from Belarus. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, this status will not affect the country's residents in any way, since the measures taken are aimed exclusively at the organizers and perpetrators of illegal activities. According to the Lithuanian Ministry of Internal Affairs, the state of emergency will allow agencies to coordinate their work even more closely and involve military units for assistance. Let me remind you, because of such balloons, the operation of Vilnius airport has already been halted several times. Law enforcement agencies continue to search for those involved in transporting the contraband. This year, Germany has faced a record number of incidents involving unidentified drones. To protect the country's critical and civilian infrastructure, including airports, the German Ministry of the Interior has created a new unit to combat drones. Natalia Gusak will tell us more.
The creation of a new federal police unit for drone protection was announced at the German Ministry of the Interior. Response teams have been deployed across the country and equipped with the latest technologies. In addition, the ministry announced the formation of a joint center for drone protection, which will coordinate the work of police forces in Germany's federal states with the federal center and the military.
We have realized that war has fundamentally changed. This is no longer World War I, it's not tanks firing at tanks. We are facing a fundamentally new reality, a war involving the use of drones. My experience over the past few months, gained through interactions with representatives of many armies and defense ministries in Europe, proves that they still believe we are at peace. But that's not the case.
Germany's air traffic management reported that since the beginning of 2025, they have recorded 208 incidents in which unmanned aerial vehicles posed a danger to civil aviation. For comparison, in 2024, there were 149 such cases. Several times, due to unidentified drones, airports in Germany had to suspend operations.
And as time goes on, more and more such incidents are occurring, both sabotage and cyber attacks. We need to understand that these concerning trends will only significantly intensify. And if Europe does not demonstrate truly effective and robust countermeasures, it will only further encourage Vladimir Putin to ramp up such aggressive and destabilizing activities.
Germany is in Russia's sights because it is the central NATO logistics hub in Europe and one of Ukraine's key partners, says Zinon Zelen, head of the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution.
A clear sign of extremely dangerous escalation is the preparation and execution of sabotage attacks in Germany and other European countries, with the Kremlin considered the main instigator. There are no signs that the situation will ease. Zinon Zelen, head of the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution of Germany, from a publication on the Deutsche Welle main Telegram channel.
Russia's hybrid aggression poses threats to the entire continent, analysts are convinced. On December 7th, the Netherlands scrambled 2 F-35 fighter jets due to the appearance of an unidentified drone in their airspace. According to reports from the Ministry of Defense, the drone left the country's airspace on its own after a brief pursuit. Experts believe that all of these are deliberate, well-planned operations pursuing several objectives. One of them is to show that Russia is capable of doing this, and the other is to test the European air defense system. That is why both NATO and the EU must be prepared to repel attacks from the aggressor country, Alliance Command is convinced.
We are also considering taking preemptive action. That's exactly how I would put it. In other words, if Russia is trying to create problems for us, then perhaps there are ways in which we could create problems for them. I'll stop there, because I don't want to go into detail about exactly how we could create those problems. This is about defending every inch of the alliance's territory.
The United Kingdom is strengthening not only its air defense but also its underwater defense in response to increased Russian hybrid activity. The British Ministry of Defense stated that in 2025 it invested millions of pounds in the development and testing of anti-submarine sensor technology as part of the Atlantic Bastion program, an initiative by the Royal Navy to ensure the security of the North Atlantic.
The Russian intelligence ship Yantar enters and leaves British waters. We know what they are doing. We track every mile of their route. Russia is actively engaged in extensive mapping and detailed surveying operations, and during a potential conflict it could effectively disable absolutely critical pipelines and essential networks upon which our entire country profoundly depends. If we truly want to stay ahead of our adversaries, if we want to give our British fleet, together with our close allies like Norway, a significant advantage on the battlefield and in deterrence, we must effectively combine new and advanced technologies. This comprehensive approach will enable us to accurately track, precisely locate, and if absolutely necessary, swiftly respond to the evolving threats we may face in the future.
The Atlantic Bastion project will connect ships, submarines, aircraft and drones using AI-based acoustic detection technology and integrate them into a digital targeting network. The UK Ministry of Defence explained that this will make it possible to detect, monitor, and if necessary, take action to neutralize the enemy. Natalia Gusak, Vladimir Shtingalov for Freedom TV channel. Czech President Petr Pavel has appointed a new Prime Minister of the country. The position went to Andrej Babiš, leader of the ANO movement, which won the parliamentary elections. Previously, the 71-year-old billionaire had already served as head of government. In his address, Babiš assured citizens that he would fight for their interest not only in the country but also around the world. It is expected that by the end of December, Babiš will announce the composition of the new government. Representatives of the pro-Russian party Freedom and Direct Democracy may be included. Its leader, populist Tomio Okamura, opposes the policies of the European Union and support for Ukraine. The European Union is constantly working on new sanctions against Russia and on improving those already adopted. This was stated today at a briefing in Brussels by Olaf Gil, the European Commission's spokesperson on trade issues. The 20th package of sanctions is currently in the works, but the EU has not yet announced a timeline for its adoption.
We are constantly working on preparing the next packages of sanctions if they are necessary, and we are also continuously working to address any shortcomings identified in previous packages. So it's a kind of dual-track effort, just as it was with all the previous packages. But at this stage, I can't say anything more about the timeline.
Kazakhstan has introduced new export control regulations. The initiative is intended to restrict the transit of dual-use goods to Russia and reduce the risks of sanctions evasion. This was reported by the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine. For a number of goods subject to European and United States sanctions, licensing will be mandatory, as well as a ban on further re-export to CIS countries and, above all, to Russia. As noted by Ukrainian intelligence, in this way Astana is deepening its coordination with the European Union, while at the same time trying to maintain a balance between its Western partners and Moscow.